Welcome to 8-7, which is multiplying polynomials. Go ahead and put today's date in the top right-hand corner. And our target for today is that I can multiply polynomials together by distributing and using the FOIL method. So far we've looked at multiplying a monomial to a polynomial, but today we're actually going to look at multiplying polynomials together. So multiplying polynomials. We multiply them by distributing everything in the first parenthesis to everything in the second parenthesis. So we're going to use the distributive property. Now, a way to help us to remember the distributive property when we're looking at binomials is the FOIL method. So in multiplying two binomials, so remember, like bicycles have two wheels, binomials have two terms. Now, a way to remember how to distribute is the FOIL method. Now, each letter in FOIL stands for something. So F means we're going to multiply our first terms in each parenthesis. The O in FOIL stands for the outside, or the outer terms. Okay, so those are the ones on the outermost side of the binomials. And the I stands for the inside terms. Oop, I already have an I there. Inside terms. And last is the L, so last terms in each parenthesis. Like we said, FOIL is just a way to help us remember how to distribute. We're still basically just going to distribute one polynomial to the other polynomial. So let's see an example. Our first example gives us x plus 3 times x plus 2. So we check. I have two terms in my first parenthesis. I have two terms in my second parenthesis. So that means I have two binomials here. So we're going to FOIL this. So F is our first terms in each parenthesis. So I always like to show the rainbow when I do this. So I'm going to distribute my x to my x. So x times x. Then O is the outside. Now for this one, I always kind of like to draw a picture. Think of the binomials being a donut. Okay, so if our binomials are a donut, what are the outside terms? Our x and our 2, because they're on the outside of our two binomials. So it's a positive x. I'm going to put plus x times 2. Now the I stands for the inside, so once again, thinking about this being a donut, the inside is going to be 3 times x. He's a positive 3, so plus 3 times x. Then last is the last terms in each parenthesis. So 3's last in the first one, 2's last in the second one. So plus 3 times 2. So we use the FOIL method. And if you look real quick before we start to simplify, if you follow just the red rainbow up top, I distributed x to x. I distributed x to 2. So I distributed him to everything in the first parenthesis. Sorry, everything into the second parenthesis. And if you look at the bottom, I did the same thing. I distributed the 3 to everything in the second parenthesis. So once again, FOIL method's just a way to help us remember how to distribute. All we did was just distribute there. So now let's simplify. X times x. Remember, we got to treat this like a monomial, so if it's like x to the first times x to the first, We add our powers, so it'd be x squared. Then x times 2 gives us 2x. 3 times x gives us 3x. And 3 times 2 is 6. And as always, we gotta check to make sure if it can simplify. So I have only one x squared, so I'm just gonna drop him down. But I have a 2x plus 3x, which makes 5x. And my plus 6 is all by himself, so he just drops down. And that's our answer. That's as far as we can go. So let's see another problem that we FOIL. So example 2, we have 2y plus 3 times 6y minus 7. So once again, we check it, and I have 2 terms in my first parenthesis. I have 2 terms in my second parenthesis, so that means I have 2 binomials being multiplied. So once again, we're going to FOIL. So F is our first terms in each. So first term is 2y, and our first term in our second parentheses is 6y. So 2y times 6y. Now our outside, so once again, if we think about it being a donut, our 2y and our negative 7 are our outsides. So it's a positive 2y, so positive 2y times a negative 7. Remember, you always got to use those signs in front. Okay, then the I stands for inside. So my 3 and my 6 are the inside part of my donut, so 3 times 6y. Then last is the last terms in each, so 3 times a negative 7. And now let's go through and simplify. So 2y times 6y. So we multiply our coefficients. 2 times 6 is 12. We add our variables exponents. So 1 and 1 makes 2. Alright, 2y times negative 7. So 2 times negative 7 is a negative 14. And our y drops. And then 3 times 6y. So 3 times 6 is a positive 18. And our y drops. And then 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. Now we check for any like terms to see if I can simplify. So 12y squared has nobody to go with, so he just drops. But I do have a negative 14y plus 18y, which would be a positive 4y minus 21. And that's as far as we can go. That's our answer. Now let's see one last example. Example 3, we have 4x plus 9 times 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. Alright, and we're told to check first, make sure we have our terms. So our first parenthesis, we have 4x and 9, so it's a binomial, so 2 terms. But over here, in our second one, I have 1, 2, 3 terms, so he's a trinomial. So we can't FOIL this one, but just remember, FOIL just helps us distribute. So we're going to take our first term in our first parenthesis and just distribute him to everybody into our second parenthesis. So I'm going to have 4x times 2x squared. Then our 4x times our negative 5x. Then our 4x times our 3. And then we make sure we distributed 4x to everybody. We did. I have showed the rainbow 3 times. So now we move on to our second term in our first parentheses, so 9. We'll do 9 times 2x squared. And then 9 times a negative 5x. And then 9 times 3. And then we check, make sure 9 got distributed to everybody. It's a little bit of an ugly rainbow below it, but it's there, so we're good. Now we just go through and we simplify. So 4x times 2x squared, we multiply our coefficients. 4 times 2 is 8. We add our exponents, so 1 and 2 make x cubed. All right, 4x times a negative 5x. So 4 times negative 5 is a negative 20. And then we add our exponents. So 1 and 1 make x squared. 4x times 3 is a positive 12x. 9 times 2x squared gives us 18x squared. 9 times a negative 5x gives us a negative 45x. And 9 times 3 is 27. So now, we're going to look to see if we can combine any like terms. So I have 8x to the third. He has nobody to go with, so he just drops. But I have a negative 20x, and negative 20x squared, and a plus 18x squared. So those two can go together, so I'm just going to regroup them. Use that commutative property and change their order. And then I have 12x, and we check for any other just x's. And I have a negative 45x. And then my plus 27, he's just a number, he has nobody to go with. So now let's go through and combine like terms. So we said 8x to the third had nobody to go with, so he drops. Negative 20x squared plus 18x squared gives us a negative 2x squared. And then our positive 12x minus 45x gives us a negative 33x. And then we drop down our plus 27. And we look, we have x to the third, x squared, x to the first, so can't go any farther. That's our answer. And that finishes up for multiplying polynomials. Thank you.